Hello and welcome back to Let's Play Pac-Man World Re-Pac. At the end of the last episode, we finished off all of the regular levels in the ruins area, and in this episode, we are now taking on the boss stage. As you can see, this time around, we have a little bit of a mini stage here where we are running through a temple being chased by a very creepy, mummified looking hand. Kind of creepy, but this little part here is pretty simple. Just want to avoid the spears that are coming out of the ground here, wanting to, slice us up, but we're not going to allow that. Going to collect all of the fruit and make our way through this giant door, where we will encounter none other than Pac-Man, because he is actually going to revive this old, creepy, ancient statue creature with his little gem here. And it is none other than Anubis. Yeah, technically his full name is Anubis Rex, but they just kind of say Anubis there in the cutscene. So this guy is, for the most part, pretty easy, but I would actually consider this the hardest boss in the game for one main reason, and that's because you can actually dive pretty easily in this fight. The overall concept, however, is actually pretty simple to take him down. As you can see, what we need to do here is not only avoid his lava rocks that he's spitting at us, but we need to actually use the rev roll ability in order to shut down these elevators, allowing us to go in for the kill. We can then get close up to Anubis, chucking our pack dots at him, and that will actually damage him, and he only takes 4 hits to take down. A lot less hits than the previous boss, Windbag. But again, we have a lot of obstacles in our way this time, and I have to say, the reason why this boss, in my opinion, is a lot more difficult, and probably the most difficult in the entire game, I would probably say, is because there are so many ways to die. A lot of the attacks that he uses on us kind of lock on to where it is pretty hard to get away from them, and you pretty much have to continuously avoid them as you're at the same time trying to shut down these elevators. As you can see, he has already taken 2 hits, so he's got 2 more hits left, but the fun has just begun. As you can see, he's now throwing these little tornado things at us, and we have died. Alright, go ahead and see if we can shut this one down again, get him down to 2 hits once again. Yeah, so this fight, like I said, can be very annoying, and it's probably the hardest in the game. And just in my opinion, again, the concept's easy, but it can be annoying because every time you die, you have to restart the fight from the very beginning all over again. I'm pretty sure that's the case with every single boss in this game, but this one is extra annoying because not only do you have to, watch that entire cutscene again where they introduce Anubis and all that jazz, but you have to, keep running on these elevators to shut them off. And you're still required to avoid all of these freaking locked on attacks that I'm not able to avoid for some reason. But yeah, I would have to say the tornado guys are the ones that are the tornado attacks that he uses are probably the most annoying to avoid because they can just kind of get in your way. And as you can see, another thing to point out is the platforms will actually break. Now I hate this. This is laser attack. This is probably the hardest attack to avoid, and I died again. Alright, we're going to give this another go. We have him down to 1 hit left. I have a good feeling about this, and he's going to strike us with his laser beam, but we're going to fall off and die into the lava. We're going to show him. Alright, one more time. Let me see what I can do here. Got to shut off all of these elevators while avoiding the giant laser beam. At the same time, avoiding these stupid mummy enemies. I died again. Of course, they have to throw out the 1 enemies that you have approached in the game where you cannot butt bounce on because of their stupid spikes on their heads, but I think we're going to do it this time. We have 2 elevators shut off. We need 2 more. Avoid those tornadoes. Oh, he just kind of stepped into the lava. That was perfect. 2 more to shut down, and this guy is a goner. He is pretty annoying to take down because of those freaking attacks that he shoots at us. And, oh no, I don't want to die here. Come on, can I do this? Oh, get away from it. I'm 1 hit from death. No, get away from me. Thank goodness. Didn't actually just run into him that time. Yeah, if you get too close to those mummies while you're pelting them, almost died there. You can actually run into them and die like that, so. But he is done. We have struck him right in the heart, or the heart jewel, I guess, if you will. and he is finally destroyed. So yes, Anubis has been taken down. Again, I would consider that the hardest boss in the game, once again, just because of all the obstacles you have to avoid, in addition to how long it takes to shut off those elevators. But it doesn't matter anymore because he is now a crumbling mess, and we have cleared the second boss stage of the game. All right, so we have now exceeded 200,000 for our total high score. Not too shabby. Again, not really caring about what my total high score is going to be. I don't think I'm going to get to 765,000, but it's okay because we have finally cleared the ruins area. So yes, it is time to move right along. We have our Pac buddy just kind of sitting there all nice and proud, and he's just kind of doing his own little thing. Didn't explain this before, but if you step on this little warp pad, you can actually warp over to any of the areas within the game. So this time we are now taking on the space area. So this is the third area of the game. As you can see, we have a few levels to do. So it looks like we are going back to the standard 3 levels, and then of course the boss stage at the end. But it is now time to take on 3-1 Space Race. All right, so yes, so we have went from the Temple of Doom and Temple of Traps and all kinds of death and darkness to outer space. So the space area is, for the most part, it is pretty straightforward, kind of like the previous areas have been, except these enemies right here in particular. So these are the enemies I was kind of referring to back in the last area where I said, I think I was talking about the tornado enemies. Oh man, I missed that right there. In the last area being like not as bad as some of the other enemies in the game, these are the ones that really drive me crazy. You can butt bounce these guys to take them out pretty easily, but they do this little spinning laser move where it's pretty hard to get close to them and you have to kind of get far away, and they can easily attack you, and they do it pretty quick to where it's hard to kind of avoid, so that can be kind of annoying for the most part. But overall, you know, as long as you can kind of get over and on top of their heads before they do anything, that's pretty much the way to go. But yeah, so one of the reasons why I really don't like this area as much as some of the other ones is because of the overuse of the lasers. That's probably me just kind of crying and complaining about the game getting, you know, a little bit more difficult, since overall it is easy for the most part for a 3D platformer. But the lasers in this area are just kind of like annoying, and they get a little bit like, I don't know, it feels a little like overdone at a certain point. This is just the first level. We have 2 more to go before the next boss. So there are some parts coming up that are just kind of frustrating to do just because of all the lasers. But again, I, you know, kind of tend to complain a lot. So maybe it's just me and I'm just kind of a crybaby. But for the most part, it isn't that bad. But kind of talking about the game's difficulty, I did actually fail to mention that this game is actually different from the original for many reasons, not just the, of course, the upscaled and remastered sprites, and of course I would fall right down there in outer space to my death. But like I was saying, this game has made a lot of changes from its original PlayStation version. Not only do the graphics look absolutely amazing compared to the PlayStation 1 version of this game, but they actually made a lot of other changes as well. And when I say a lot of other changes, I mean several changes were made to this game. One of those changes is there's actually an easy mode in this game where you are actually given the option essentially to, I guess, take a little bit of an easier route in difficulty. But now we're going to go ahead and take on the maze. I want to go ahead and show this off before I get back to talking about that. But yeah, so basically the easy mode, essentially, I guess it allows you to utilize additional platforms that wouldn't have normally appeared in, I guess, like the regular, like, difficult mode. I think it's like an easy mode and a hard mode. I can't remember. I'm pretty sure I'm playing on the easy mode. For me, I don't, of course I would die to that laser. For me, like I was saying, for me, it's really not that big of a difference or big of a deal whether, you know, whether you're playing this in easy mode or hard mode. I think this game, for the most part, is pretty straightforward, regardless of what mode you're playing in as far as difficulty. But I just want to kind of point that out, that there is a more challenging mode if that's something that somebody's interested in. If they're playing this game and for some reason aren't aware, although it is pretty hard to not be aware since that's one of the options you're given in the, I think it's like one of the first, oh man, I'm just dying left and right. I think it's one of the options given when you are first in the title screen beginning in the, first starting up the game. So I think I went ahead and went with easy mode, but I didn't really talk about that since I started this game. But we have now cleared the very first maze of the space area, and didn't really say a lot about the maze when I was in there, but the main thing about these mazes in this particular area that kind of get challenging is those laser beams, because they can kind of randomly pop in and out, kind of like this one is right here. At you, to where it's kind of hard to navigate a specific path to get away from the ghost and to collect your Pac dots. So I just wanted to kind of mention that. Didn't really get a chance to do that because I was kind of chatting and doing a lot of talking about the difficulty, or the different difficulty options that you can choose in the game. But I just want to kind of talk about that. We'll have more mazes, of course, to kind of talk about. And I think most of them do utilize that little laser, that laser mechanic where you have to essentially wait for it to kind of fade out to where you can cross a certain path. But now going back into the level, it looks like we have another ghost area here. We went ahead and hit that number 1 switch, giving us these, or allowing the platform to kind of lower. And we have now turned into Mega Pac-Man with our power pellets. Very nice. Gonna go ahead and munch on all these ghosts. And of course I would miss just that last one there. This area can be a little bit weird when it comes to depth perception, because it looks like you're getting hit by those lasers, but you're really not unless you're on those, like those platforms right there where those Pac dots are. So it's kind of tricky at first, and it looks like you're going to get hit, but as long as you're on the lower level, those lasers cannot hit you. So that's something to kind of point out as well. But now we're going to hit the number 2 switch. That'll open up that door, and we can go ahead and move over this way. We have more of those annoying spinning laser enemies that we're going to take care of with absolutely no problem at all. Very nice. As you can see, Pac-Man actually does an additional bounce move. If you do the butt bounce attack a certain number of times, he will end up doing, I believe it's an extended bounce attack, where he will actually bounce faster and higher the more that you use the butt bounce move. So that's something that's important for maybe like ramps that you're struggling to get up on with the rev roll, or maybe just high ledges that you're not able to do with the regular butt bounce attack. But now we're going to continue on, and this section can get kind of tricky because there's so many lasers and it's very easy to die. And there's actually a lot of hidden fruits within this area right here. I remember specifically this area, I had to kind of do a lot of backtracking and running around with a chicken, or like a chicken with my head cut off, because I just couldn't figure out what to do. But this laser right here is actually holding, you can see there's a bell back there behind that, so we actually need to go get that, but we can't get in there without that switch being hit. So that switch deactivates that laser. You're given a very short amount of time to go and get that bell, but that's something important if you want to open up that door. But now we're going to make our way back up these lasers, and as long as you time your jumps well enough, you can pretty much avoid those with no problem. As you can see, we've already collected all the Pac-Man letters, and we're already done with the level. We did the maze and everything, so that stage was actually pretty short. I remember that being a lot longer for some reason. But anyways, we have finished 3-1, and we're moving on to the first bonus stage. Alright, so this bonus stage in particular is a little bit more challenging because you have to kind of time your movements a lot more precisely here. Because as you can see, and I've already kind of screwed up there. Oh, no, I saved it. Very nice. But basically, you're given those little temporary pathways that kind of appear when you hit that switch. So you have to really collect... Oh, wow, I really screwed up there. You have to really grab all of your fruits pretty quick because those pathways will disappear after a short amount of time. You're given a pretty tight window in order for those to stay. So you really want to go, if you go in like a diagonal formation or diagonal direction, you can pretty much pick up, I think, pretty much all of them in one go. I don't think I'm going to get it here. I got 3 seconds left. We're pretty close, but we missed it by like 3, but that's okay. There's more to do, so we'll go ahead and see if we can clear those. I'm not really crazy on clearing every single bonus stage. I'm going to try my best to do that, or at least most of them. But again, if it happens to, if it happens that we just fail some of them, and that's just what happens. All right, so after that slot machine, looks like we have increased our total high score once again, like normal. Again, not really feeling the need to show the slot bonus off that much anymore, because you kind of get the idea. It kind of gets kind of repetitive because it's just the same song and dance every time you finish a level. But now we're gonna go ahead right into 3-2, Far Out. And if I remember correctly, this is probably my favorite stage of the area. I think I'm remembering this one correctly. But in this particular stage, we are actually going to find our next Pac buddy, and it is going to be the Pac Professor. So we're gonna go ahead and find him towards the end of the stage, but first we're gonna do our little thing here and try not to get hit by those crazy laser spinning guys, and we're gonna make our way through this little door here, or not really a little door, I guess, if it's a giant door with like a laser lock or whatever you call that. And we're gonna continue on collecting our fruits and our collectibles. So here is kind of an example of what I was talking about when it comes to the lasers kind of being annoying and kind of overdone. As you can see, there's like a ton of lasers you have to kind of maneuver around in order to kind of proceed on through the stage. So that's kind of something that can be annoying. If you're timing your movements well enough, it probably isn't going to be that big of a deal. Here we have a switch where, again, we have some more temporary platforms to use in order to collect certain collectibles that are found on those. So very nice. And I kind of want to go back to talking about, I know I kind of start talking about stuff and kind of get distracted and change topics a lot, but I want to go back and talking about some of the changes that this game has actually made in regards to the differences between this and the original PlayStation version. Some of the other changes I think are interesting that I didn't really talk about is, I'm sure by now you're aware of the use of the metal dot abilities. We've already kind of used that a little bit, or actually several times in this playthrough already. The metal dot was actually referred to as the steel ball, I believe, in the original version. And one of the main differences with that ability is you were actually, I think one, it was not actually, the treasure chest you would find, the steel dot in the original version was not, it was actually not like very obvious. So like in this version in particular, the metal dots are found in the blue treasure chest. So it's pretty obvious to know where they're located once you find the blue treasure chest. In the original version, I believe they were just in like regular looking chests, and I didn't mean to dive right down there to my death. All right, but anyways, that's a shortcut to get over here because we got the Galaxian key, so we'll go ahead and take on the next maze. But yeah, so the metal dots, or I guess referred to back then as the steel balls, were actually not easy to find because they kind of blended in with all the regular collectibles because they were not specifically, they were not in specific looking, blue looking chests. They weren't very obvious to find. Another thing that's kind of interesting is they were temporary. So once you use the metal dot or the steel ball in the original version once, it would not respawn. So you had to pretty much utilize your entire time using it on the first attempt. Otherwise, of course, if you wanted to 100% the game back then on that version, you'd have to pretty much quit the stage, restart it all over from the beginning if you failed to get something that was maybe underwater in a chest that you couldn't get with the metal dot, since it would disappear after first use. So kind of something that's, I think they actually improved in this version, because I think that would have definitely screwed me up several times. Of course, I say that right when I died of these freaking ghosts. And another thing, the ghosts. So these guys all have names, and I struggle to remember all their names. I know one's Blinky, one's Clyde, or the orange one's Clyde. I can't remember which one's Blinky. And there's a few other ones as well. I'll have to kind of remember those names later on. But these ghosts were actually found out in the main level. As man, I'm dying left and right. So I guess we're not going to do that one. That kind of sucks. Yeah, so I'm going to have to go back and redo this because I want to clear all the mazes. That's something I do want to strive to do. So I'm going to have to go back and redo that. That kind of sucks. I'll have to re-enter the level later on, but that's okay. But anyways, yeah, the ghosts were basically all the ghost areas that you would activate by hitting those switches that we have, like with the Pac-Man symbol on them, would actually be those specific ghosts. So in this version, they're just all one color ghosts, and they're not really anything specific. The original version, they would be the, those specific pink, red, and orange ghosts that you would find in the, just the original ghost areas out in the actual level. So not just in the maze sections. And also the maze sections were different as well. I believe they actually had fruit that you would collect as well as Pac dots in the mazes. And I don't remember exactly what the other differences are in the mazes, but I think there was a few other differences as well. But yeah, basically, as you can see, there was a lot of, or as you can probably know, or tell from what I've explained already, and I'm sure there's a lot more research you can do online about it. There's a lot of differences that they made between this version and the last version of this game. So just wanted to kind of point that out. I know I kind of rambled a little too much about that, but kind of getting back to talking about this stage. So this part right here is pretty frustrating because not only do you have to avoid those fire rocks or those meteors, what have you, being chucked at your head, You have to also avoid these little lasers that are kind of in these little, you know, not kind of square looking diagonal shapes, whatever you want to call that, zigzag shape. But we have a lot of collectibles on the sides of these platforms. So the one thing that kind of gets a little bit tedious is you have to keep going down to find the elevator in order to, you know, ascend back up to the top. So unfortunately, the elevator doesn't just stop wherever you jump off of it at, which I kind of wish they would have made it like that. Kind of a small gripe to have, but it goes all the way back down to the bottom if you have to, you know, jump off of it in order to collect some of these collectibles, which some of them are, you know, necessary since we found the letter A down there in that one platform. So just, you know, small little gripe. I just wanted to kind of point that out as well. But now we have activated the number 1 switch, so there's actually something very important for us down there. But first, look who it is. Pac Professor, or Professor Pac. Pac-Man, there should be a key near here. You need to find it. Pointing out the obvious, Professor. What do you know? He's freaking pointing out the obvious here. He should be teaching us something we don't know. You know what I mean? Like, he's the professor, isn't he? Is he not? I don't know. I'm crazy. I'm losing it. Anyways, now that we hit the number 1 switch, we can do a little bit of a leap down here. Hit the number 2 switch. That will give us the unlock, or the collectible that we need to open that door, which gives us the key in order to free our Pac Professor. So we need to go ahead and get back up there to his cage, because the poor guy is he's in prison very unjustly. So we need to go ahead and free him from his misery. Thanks, Pac-Man. I will wait for you up ahead. All right, so he's gonna do his little rocket move where he just kind of flies out of the freaking... I like how he just like flies out of here like, yep, I'll wait for you out there. Good luck. You know, you can do all the hard work. It's always like the main protagonist always has to do the dirty work, which I guess is kind of the... I would die there. All right, so we're going to try that again without dying. Again, not too bad. We have a lot more letters to collect still, so let's see if we can open up this door now that we have the apple. We'll get that C. We now have half the letters collected. But yeah, for the most part, again, this area, not my favorite, but I do like the overall design of it. I think just having an outer space section is pretty cool. You get like a nice little backdrop in the background as you're doing your little platforming around all of these annoying lasers and these tilting platforms, and that's something I didn't really touch on, is these platforms will kind of tilt on you. A trick to be able to get to the next one pretty easy is wait for it to tilt, you know, like to the left, I guess, down to the left, to where it basically tilts the right side up to where you can actually gain a little bit more height in your jump. So that's kind of something that's kind of obvious, but again, I think it's kind of helpful if you're kind of going through this pretty fast. Speedrunners out there probably aren't going to care about that, but that's something I always like to utilize when I'm jumping on those tilting platforms. But now we're going to hit this switch. That's going to temporarily disable this laser so we can get up to the top of this platform. Find another chest. Man, that thing reactivated pretty quick. And we're going to go ahead and collect that. And now that we have the bananas, we're going to open up that door, get what's inside there, get our checkpoint here, and activate another ghost section right here. So this part I think is kind of cool. Wow, he spawned like right inside of me. That was kind of creepy. But now we're going to go ahead and pick up our power pellet, munch on these ghosts. And I have to say, this is probably one of my favorite ghost sections right here, because it's just kind of epic. Like, you're on top of this platform. Those blue parts are obviously temporary, so they're going to fade after a while. I like how they're kind of like going in and out like that. It's kind of weird. But yeah, it's kind of cool how you're like on this little this giant steel platform. And you know, you turn into Mega Pac-Man, and you can kind of go crazy on that thing. Just narrowly avoiding death before those temporary platforms disappear. But we have now finished off stage 3-2, and we are taking on the bonus stage. So getting through this area pretty quick. I feel like this is actually taking us less time than the ruins area, which is actually surprising, because I didn't think that was going to be the case. This section usually takes me a lot more time. Something I actually didn't mention is I actually had to redo stage 3-1 because I kind of messed up a couple of things. So I'm hoping that doesn't happen like frequently in this playthrough. But already I've had to redo a couple of stages. Nothing too crazy, but there's just been a couple things that I've either forgotten or I just kind of messed up and didn't realize it until like the last minute where it was too late. But we have finally cleared this bonus stage, so that kind of makes up for the last one that we didn't clear. Very nice. And yes, so I promise it, I'm going back into that maze that I did not finish. This is the maze that I screwed up. I'm gonna show you what it's actually like to complete this sucker, because I am not leaving any maze left uncleared. That's just one of my goals in this Let's Play, and I'm gonna stick to it. Something that's nice, again, with the power pellet, we can just kind of walk through those lasers. That's kind of obvious because we're invincible. But we have finally cleared the maze that we didn't before. And there's my final score. So we're getting closer to 400,000, and that's going to do it for this episode. So I will see you next time on Let's Play Pac-Man World Re-Pac.